Is the Windy City Savage back at it, and tonight we are talking all about wrestling news, rumors. You already know whatever you guys like to talk about. Thank you for joining. Any comments tonight? Feel free to drop whatever you guys want to discuss. But with that being said, let's get into the news and let's start it off with some controversial tweets that we just got not too long ago, and that is with the one and only, the phenomenal one's son, Avery Styles. And the discussion is this basically. We had a couple of tweets going out between Eric Cannon and AJ Styles in an online pretty much beef that happened like a couple of hours ago at pretty much this involves Avery Styles not helping out so much to either set up chairs or clean up after the match. You know, pay his dues, sort of say, what every indie wrestler pretty much does, or even in the big times. You know, there's still a couple of people out there that does help out, set up rings, wrestlers, referees, you name it. And this happened to the fact that Avery Styles did face Marcus Matters at GCW Rude Awakening, where he did lose. So at this point, we had a couple of tweets, and that is this. As someone who watched this kid skirt away from helping with a single thing at this very show, I just like to say, LO fucking L. And that was his response, which eventually, afterwards, caught the attention of the phenomenal one, AJ Styles, who came into his son's defense and had this to say. And this is quote on AJ Styles. He was paid to wrestle at GCW, not help you put up and take down the ring. That sounds like your job. You just sound like a jealous douche. And that is just crazy line. We do have a real quick comment from Wyatt Wrestling. Hey Wendy, what is up? How are you? How's it going, Wyatt? You streaming tonight? I know you're streaming on Twitch. How's it going out there? Remember to like and subscribe to Wyatt, part of the community. Good brother out there. Thank you for joining, Wyatt. Hope you're having fun tonight. With that being said, though, so far, man, things are just heating up tonight with these tweets. And this is what Eric's response was to AJ Styles, and says, I have all the respect in the world for you, AJ. I understand why you defend your son. It is admirable. But the fact remains, he can stay AJ's kid and continue to skirt the responsibilities and paying dues. Or he can earn the respect of his peers and stand on his own as Avery, quote unquote. So afterwards, things just did not end there. And we already know on Dad Mode himself, the phenomenal one had a clap back at the veteran Avery. And so he did. Said, this is what AJ Styles had to say. You don't ask someone to have dinner at your house and have them do the dishes. He was asked to wrestle at GCW. Although grateful for the opportunity, a vet would have talked to him professionally or at least face to face. Man, that's starting to get really hot in there, man, those tweets. Wyatt says, real quick, just got done with my stream. Oh, that's what's up, Wyatt. I'm sure it was a good one. Yeah, I got to start getting on that Twitch stream myself. I got to get in there pretty soon. But with that being said, man, look, this is just crazy to happen. We still got a little bit more tweets left, and this is this. Eric said that a 20-year vet and promoter asked him to help with the chairs twice. Instead of helping, he hid in the locker until Ari thing was done. My 2 cents isn't going to affect his future, but with all due respect, you're stating he doesn't need a help is doing him a disservice. Okay, and this is where it pretty much ends there. Um, we got a couple of reactions from Natty Hart saying he paid his dues and would like to train Avery Styles if she had the opportunities. Obviously, at the dungeon, we also had a tweet from Lexis Keene, a second generation superstar, by the way. We already know who his father is, the legendary Brian Pillman. And, there's a lot of reactions, a lot of things to say here. And here's the thing. Look, whether how you want to see it, there's a lot of things here that could have been done and done in the right way. And I personally think that everybody involved was wrong. And with that being said, there's a lot of ways to look at this, and that is one. Okay, I get to the fact that, yes, there are dues to be paid in wrestling, especially when you do come up in the industry. Everybody has done it throughout the years. No wrestler has never paid his dues, and I know for a fact that AJ Styles is one of them. I'm sure back in the day, AJ Styles had set up chairs, closed up shop, swept up the ring, did what he can in the indies to earn himself a paycheck. So he's not one to basically say that, he doesn't have to. When, in fact, I'm on the side of Avery that, yes, he should have paid his dues. Now, who knows what the incident really did involve? Things could get hyped up. Things could have gotten missed out of hand. Maybe he was asked once and he forgot about it. It could just happen. We don't know exactly because we haven't even really gotten Avery's side of the story. But with that being said, there's also the issue with Avery commenting this and putting this on social media right away, instead of being the veteran that he is, going to the promoter and then having the promoter pull Avery Styles to the side and says, look, we're going to have to talk to you, and we're going to have a little discussion about whenever you wrestle with us or any indie scene out there, there's a little tradition out here that you got to help us out, set up shop and close up shop. It's just the dudes and just the way things are in the game when you're coming up. That could have been said to veteran to rookie. All righty. And if he decided to refuse in that case, then all right, you should have let him have it after that. But I highly doubt that this was really the case. But with that being said, too, another one that's fault in this whole issue is AJ Styles himself. All right, I get it. You're on dad mode. Your son is attacked on social media. You're seeing him trend. You don't like that. He's coming up in the game. You're going to protect your son at all costs. But here's the thing. Your son is a grown man. And with that being said, it just looks really bad that you have to go out there and defend them and say basically he was paid to just wrestle and not to set up stuff, not to pay his dues. He's his own man. He has to grow through the ranks. He has to pay his dues. He has to earn the respect on the road. And of all people, AJ Styles should have known that. And I'm a big fan of AJ, by the way. And that is the hardest part here, is that I do think AJ Styles is wrong in that department where, yes, I don't think anyone's above the industry. As you know, there's many people that have paid their dues in the industry and they still do to this day. One is Jimmy Hart. To this day, I've heard stories that he does set up chairs. He does, whenever he wrestles at an area, he helps as much as he can. The man still does it. The man has heart for the industry. Charles Robinson still helps set up chairs to this day. He's not one that, no matter how famous he is, he's not above the business as well. There's wrestlers back in the day, obviously, like Samoa Joe, Styles himself, Even Brock Lesnar in OVW did drove around in the truck back in the day just to help him move equipments. Um, and this one, believe it or not, Shane McMahon. Shane McMahon wanted to get into the business, and Vince didn't just give him the keys to the castle. Because one thing is that Vince was never handed the keys; he had to earn his way through it and basically hustle himself. So he wanted to teach his son the same way. So what he had Shane McMahon do was basically be a part of the ring crew. So he set up the ring, he cleaned up the ring, and he paid his dues that way, getting into the industry, which was honestly well thought out for Vince. You know, not just to give your kids everything you want, have them earn it just like he earned it himself. So I do not think that just because he's second generation, just because he carries the Styles name, that he's not above one, not paying dues, not, earning their stripes just because he carries the name. You're your own man. Earn your stripes. Earn your name. I get it. In some parts, in some way, you will be affiliated with your father or with your family's legacy. We've seen that in the business. We've seen that with Cody Rhodes. We've seen that with Dustin Rhodes. We've seen that with Randy Orton. We've seen that with The Rock, with Roman. You named it. But eventually, they made their own personality. They made themselves set apart from that. But if you had to have your dad come in and saved you, and this looks bad on both Avery and AJ Styles himself, and it's really hard to say. And I also don't agree with them. Like at this point, I do not agree at all with Avery coming at Avery Styles on the tweet as well. Look, a veteran, a 20-year veteran, or however how long he's been on the business. I heard of Eric's canon, by the way. I haven't seen too much wrestling. I haven't seen too much GCW, which I should get into it, but I know who he is, and I get it. He's been a long time into the game. I get where he's coming from, but at the same time, man to man, you set the guy apart, you set the rookie apart, and you talk to him. You say, hey, look, I get it. You come from second generation, but I'm going to tell you this, kid, you're not going to last too long in the business if you're not out here helping us out and setting up shop and closing it out at the night as well, helping us out and giving us our hand. Have a talk with them. And afterwards, if he's disrespectful, doesn't want to help, then at that point, do as you may and do what you have to do. Real quick, Jose Martinez says, Wendy, what's up, Jose? How's it going? How's your night? Thank you for joining, my man. Thank you for joining. I don't know. All this dirty laundry itself did not have to be out there. That's all I have to say. It really was ridiculous. It's really sad to see that this kid's legacy, Avery Styles, is so far in the bad start. Hopefully this does not define him. Hopefully he doesn't get into a bad trend after this. Hopefully he bounces back and keeps it going. Because if he doesn't succeed, we're going to look back at these tweets, and this is going to basically be the start of his downfall, which I don't think. I think he is talented. I watched him wrestle, and I think he does have a great future in wrestling and could be someone. But at the same time, for Styles as well, you have to separate yourself from your son's career at this point and let him be his own wrestler. Because the more involved you are, the more likely fans are going to see that. And they're not going to be too kind to your son at this point to be basically a daddy's boy. Could I see this being eventually fixed down the line? Yes. I feel like Styles could fix this himself, talk to his son, explain to him the rules of wrestling. Maybe he wasn't told that, and maybe he did not know. And that being said, I could see Styles' opinion where you got paid to do a spot, and that's all you got paid for. You didn't get paid to clean up. I could get that point, and I could get why Avery did not think that he should clean up or anything. But if there was a tradition in place and wrestlers have done it before, I don't see why someone's above that at that point. Um, if you really want to be someone in the wrestling industry, I just say, pay your respects, pay your dues, and just keep going in the game. I don't think this is going to slow down to Avery Styles, and I do think he has a bright future. But I hope this is the last negative thing we hear about him, because honestly, it's not a good look. And I don't necessarily think it's his fault. We haven't heard much from him, so let's see if we get to hear his opinion, his thoughts, and see what he says, basically. Because right now we just have more of the old heads arguing against each other online on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it at this point. Let's get his opinion and let's see what really went down at that point. And we'll keep you updated on that. Let's talk about a little bit of some issues going on. And that is with Chelsea Green. As you guys may heard, Chelsea has once again has some obstacles she has to face, some tough obstacles. Little background, not too long ago, Chelsea Green had some heart issues and numerous of injuries. The heart issues didn't landed her in the hospital where she did need indeed procedure. And we did get a photo of Matt Cardona in the hospital with her in support of Chelsea Green. But overall, she got the procedure done and she overcame it and came back into wrestling just as strong. And then eventually moved up to the ranks. And as you see in SummerSlam, she was able to capture the interim women's champion. And that was not too long ago, about a week ago. Now, here's the issue. When she did make her debut as the new interim women's champion on SmackDown, Tiffany Stratton did appear, as well as Fatal Influence, which led to a tag team match this Friday on SmackDown against Fallon and Laney, where there was a spot during the match where Chelsea Green suffered a broken orbital bone. Which at this point, you just started off as champion. Oh man. And we cannot get any good luck from from Chelsea Green at this point. What goes on from here? There's a lot of ways we could go about this. And that is this. Look, before that, let's just hear what she had to say. She says, I did get injured last night. Stuff happens. It's like television. It's wrestling. It's an computational hazard, Green said. As she posted this on her Instagram, I ended up in the emergency room and I have a broken orbital bone. It looks amazing, all things considered. I feel awful, but looks amazing. Pretty positive in my opinion. Chelsea's always positive about everything in life, especially as we've seen in Unreal. She had an injury before, and even then she kept it positive, as well as when Michael Hayes criticized her and says she would never be the woman. She's the woman that gets basically the main event people up there and elevate them instead. She overcame all that and basically won the interim's title and stuck it to Michael Hayes in the post-conference interview. Luckily for us, Michael Hayes was a good sport about it, and he laughed it off and said he was wrong. So good on him for acknowledging that. We got a quick comment, by the way, from Jose Martinez, and says, I'm going to say it, and it sucks, but I think Michael Hayes was right. Oh, man. All right, let's see where this comment goes. And it sucks. I think Chelsea is too injury prone. Stuff happens, but she has a lot of bad luck. Remember when she broke her arm? Yeah, indeed, man. I'm not going to lie to you. She has a lot of bad luck. There has been a lot of injuries with Chelsea Green over the years. And sometimes some people are injury prone. Look at Seth Rollins, for instance. Always gets injured, never lasts long. As his career continues, though, like it's hard to say that I'm gonna be honestly say that. Am I ever gonna say Michael Hayes is right, Jose? I'm sorry, but I can't agree with that. But if that is your opinion, that is on you. Personally, me, I don't think he is right. I still think Chelsea does spot in the main event scene. She has gotten herself over. She's well liked from the fans. She's very popular. I've seen a lot of women cosplay as Chelsea Green the last couple of years, and I really do think she's very over with the crowd. Look at Seth Rollins, injured after injured, but yet he's given a title opportunity every single year. He has had multiple runs, never stopped them from being the main event. And we can still consider Seth Rollins as one of the top guys in WWE. I don't think that's any difference with Chelsea Green. But yes, though, her strings of bad luck continues to happen. And it's very unfortunate that once she captures gold, she gets injured right away. Now, things like this happen in the game, unfortunately. Real quick, the good part is this. Let's just be on the positive side here. There's many ways we could go about this because a broken orbital bone is not that long to heal. And it's about 4 to 6 weeks just to heal from that. With that being said, I do not see. Okay, let me ask you guys something. What direction do you see WWE going with this injury? Do you think they're going to strip off Chelsea Green's title from her and then redo something for that while she heals, like a battle royal or a number one contenders match for that title at the next PLE, which would be Money in the Bank, or even at I don't know, on a SmackDown, random SmackDown for one night. There's a lot of ways to go about this, but it's about 4 to 6 weeks really to heal. I don't think it's necessary, in my opinion, to strip her off right away from the title. I think we can still create some good storylines, let her run with the title, even though she won't necessarily be physical. With that being said, I do think she'll be willing to wear the mask, to appear weekly on TV, and not wrestle, but give us a couple segments. Even give us a segment where she is attacked, because we already seen that not only Fatal Influence are after Tiffany Stratton and Chelsea Green, but we also have Nia Jax and Lash Legend also getting into the mix, and it does look like Nia Jax wants her title shot. So there's a lot of ways to go about this, and one is this: Fatal Influence could attack Chelsea Green, which would ride her off for quite a while. We could also have Nia Jax attack her in the background, as well, to put her off at least 2 to 3 weeks. And there you go. You have half the healing process almost done. Or, like everybody says, Tiffany Stratton might turn on Chelsea because she wants that title for her. She wants to be Tiffy 2 belt. There's a lot of good storylines off of this. I don't necessarily think we should write things off right away. I think we should let things simmer, because here's the thing. We do hear reports that Rhea Ripley is not clear to return yet. We have seen videos where she's just, barely able to walk. It doesn't look like we're going to get Rhea Ripley's return for another 3 to 4 months, is my estimate. And at that point, there was a lot of reports before Chelsea got injured that they were thinking about stripping the title away from Rhea and letting Chelsea Green just have a good, an actual run with the title. You not notice Chelsea Green's t-shirt that says the real women's world heavyweight champion. I think they were supposed to set things off as her really being the person, while Rhea did recover it and got herself stripped out of the title while she healed. obviously she was going to get another title shot when she returned back and probably did beat Chelsea Green. But during the match, we already seen something was up when Chelsea did spot the ref and told her, there's something wrong with me. Tell Nia Jax to be careful with me, not to hurt me right away. And I say that because Nia Jax has been a vouch machine throughout all of her career. Let's see what Jose throws us another comment. Jose, let's see what you say, buddy. Hey, all I'll say is this as well. But if Liv can't keep the champion while not defending it, then we can have Chelsea as champion. I'll give the devil his dues. Exactly my point. If Liv could have a 100-day title reign without defending it one time in that process and having minimal matches on Raw, why is Chelsea not in this category? What's the difference between her and Liv? Who is more well-liked? Who has a better personality, a better gimmick? I do love Liv Morgan. I do love her heel side. Don't get me wrong. I just think Chelsea is a better act overall, in my opinion. I do think she's able to run with the title. I feel like Chelsea will be up for wearing the mask, getting on TV, and still be able to wrestle very lightly. Maybe she won't do any crazy spots, but still do some tag team with Tiffany Stratton. We still could have a storyline between eventually how Tiffany would turn on Chelsea and probably ride her out for the remaining weeks of her healing process. But there's a lot to come out of here, man. There's a lot of ways to go about it. If we did have Tiffany turn, and we did have to basically strip Chelsea Green. Let's put it this way: if we had to strip out Chelsea Green out of her title, who else is next in line? I guess you could say. Let's say WWE decides, you know what? Let's just take the title off of Chelsea, let her heal. Maybe we'll acknowledge that she never lost her title and we could give her a rematch when she comes back. But let's run it with someone safer. Who's next in line? There's not that many women on the roster that we could really make a case of right now. That is the tricky part. WWE's in a really tricky part thanks to bad booking lately. Thanks for not building up any women on the SmackDown roster. Let me throw you actually the roster of SmackDown real quick. Okay? We got Alexa Bliss, B-Fab, eventually a return of Bianca Belair. Maybe we'll land her on SmackDown. We do have Blake Monroe, which is an interesting name. But the thing is, when is she going to really make her debut? Who she's going to feud with? Because she's been all over the place. And she's been getting teased for quite a while, even showing up on SmackDown. But when is she going to get a proper storyline? That is the question. Brie Bella is injured. So that's out of the story. Candice LeRae, Charlotte Flair, probably top candidate. Probably be the safest one to basically have a title run. One that maybe now the fans could get over with. Even though Chelsea's getting stripped, I don't think people are going to necessarily blame Charlotte for it. It's just something that happens. And I could see Charlotte Flair actually winning that title. And during a match, Battle Royal, whatever they want to strip Chelsea Green and put a stipulation to get that title for. Fallon, of course. Julia, let's write her out completely because WWE does not see any star power in Julia, even though we, the viewers, do see her as high potential in the game, but yet WWE decides not to push her at all. J.C. Jane is an interesting one. I could see her definitely having a good run with the title, but I don't think it's now. I think it's later on in the future, maybe another year or so before she really gets to there. Jade Cargill. Do we want to see Jade Cargill as champion once again? We've seen her as champion. She did not do much. We've seen her on SmackDown recently against Charlotte Flair, and that wasn't a great match overall. A botch fest, especially during the end when basically she missed her spot of the natural selection from Charlotte Flair for basically the win. It just looks so bad that I do not think Jade Cargill deserves another title run. with the women's world heavyweight champion. She is a good heel. I'll give her that. Good promo, good look. But I don't think we need another couple more months, weeks, whatever you want to give her as champion once again. If we do strip down Chelsea Green from her title, um, Jordan Grace, nowhere to be found. I don't know what's going on with Jordan Grace. Talks about her being released, but we don't know the status of that so far. Kiana James, I don't see it. Laney Reed, I don't think so. Lash Legend is an interesting one. I could definitely see her getting a title reign, and I do think she fits perfect in that role as a heel. But we do know that she's linked up with Nia Jax. And with that being said, do we want to see Nia Jax have another title reign on SmackDown with the women's world heavyweight champion? I do not think that's a bad idea, because I feel like WWE would want to go with the heel, and I do think that Nia Jax would be a lot different than having Jade Cargill as champion. And I'm saying that Nia Jax is a better wrestler than Jade Cargill, but it's something different, because we already seen Jade Cargill's title reign and it's been lackluster. So if they want to put the belt on another heel, my suggestion would be Lash Legend, but I could see WWE really pushing for Nia Jax overall. So that's just between me. What else do we have on this roster real quick? We also have Nikki Bella, who does not have Brie for quite a bit. Never know. They could tease a possibility. Paige, I doubt it. Piper Niven's still injured. Rhea Ripley's out. And Tiffany Stratton might be the only one there that makes any sense to win that title. So with that being said, I don't know what direction they'll go to. My idea is this: just have her basically show up week by week, do her thing, keep it going, write her off, get her attacked by anybody random, get us guessing, who it really was. Because if you think about it, that SmackDown, despite her injury, really left them with an open feud going on right there between Nia and Lash Legend, or Fatal Influence, or Tiffany Stratton. One of them could eventually take her out backstage for quite a bit, and we'll have this whole storyline is who took out Chelsea Green while she's champion. And I don't mind the sound of that, because like Jose said earlier, if you have Liv that kept the championship and still championship and hasn't defended quite often since she won it, why can't Chelsea Green have a long title reign? Even though she just won it and got injured, I don't see any difference. I could see them using her every week still and cutting good promos here and there and having the good basically storylines and gimmick in the backstage role and not getting physical with any wrestlers. I think that could be done if written right, the storyline. Jose does say, let's see real quick. Jose says this: I think it's safe to give it to either Charlotte or maybe Alexa. If I had to pick between the two, I would actually go for Alexa. Alexa Bliss. She just returned, and with that return, she looks a lot more serious right now. I could go for Alexa Bliss because it creates a good storyline for Charlotte Flair. That being her tag team partner for the last couple of months, the last year basically, it makes a great storyline where maybe they're both in a battle royal, maybe they're down to the last three. Charlotte eliminates Nia Jax, Alexa sneaks up, eliminates Charlotte Flair. Bam, Charlotte's a new interim champion, interim champion. And then eventually causes a little bit issue where Charlotte is happy for her, but at the same time does not like the fact that she got one over Charlotte Flair. Could happen a one-on-one match. Anything goes on that point, but Alexa being champion does cause issue for their tag team relationship. So I could see that being a good storyline, and putting the title on Alexa makes a lot more sense in my eyes. I don't know. I guess we have to see this week's SmackDown to see where they're going about this. All I know is this. WWE's won the blame on themselves for not creating a strong women's roster. This would not be the issue. We would not be talking about this, trying to figure out who fits it perfectly if WWE already had the next person in line and the next person in line after that. It just seems like there's a lot of issues because we can't just give the titles to Charlotte because I feel like fans would not like that. Alexa Bliss, some fans wouldn't like this. I feel like there's no set one women's wrestler right now that is very over on SmackDown besides Rhea Ripley. And obviously Chelsea Green. I just feel like WWE really dropped the ball in creative here in the last couple of months, building up the next woman, world heavyweight champion, potential women's champion. Because we already know Jade Cargill isn't the one for that. She still vouches a lot of movesets, and she needs to go back maybe to like basic training, maybe back to NXT, learn a little bit and get the basics out of it. We don't see Nia Jax. Charlotte Flair is an interesting one, but I don't think anyone's really excited for that. Alexa Bliss would be the only one in my eyes that could give some new life to the title right now and could probably create interesting storylines. But we're going to have to wait to see this week's SmackDown to see what happens there. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see. Alrighty. Let's talk about somebody here gave us some insight of what it's really like to be on Backstage Creative when it comes to pitching ideas to creative story writers on what they want to do next. You know, we already know that Triple H has criticized a lot of wrestlers for not speaking up in the past and a lot of other veterans as well. But as we all know, former Judgment Day member Carlito has spoken up about his release and his time in WWE. And let's just say this, he was not quite happy during his last run in WWE, and probably will be his last, by the way. I don't think he's ever really going to come back there unless it's like a Hall of Fame for him or something. But regardless, let's see what he has to say. And he did say this in quotes. While speaking recently in Inside the Ropes, by the way, he did share a little bit of insight and said it's difficult basically being heard can be behind the scenes. So he quotes this. I remember a lot of times somebody said, "Oh, you didn't speak up." Well, the thing is, speaking up is going 1 week to, let's say, Ryder, "Hey, I got in this idea." "Oh, that's a good idea." Okay, come back next week and then goes, "What do you think? What was the idea?" Or "What is it again?" Well, these talks basically eventually ended up to Triple H. By no means it wasn't an easy pitch Carlito added. In quotes, he says, "Oh, talk to so-and-so." And then, okay, now 3 weeks have gone by. Eventually you get to Hunter and you're like, "Yeah, what do you got?" "Yeah, let me see. Let me look into it. Don't you?" And then I'm like, "Don't you run the show? Like, who you got to talk to? Just tell me either yes or no or whatever." So how he says is this, that speaking up, it's like, bro, I don't have that kind of energy. You know what I mean? I'll tell you once or, at least twice. I don't have to be chasing you around. Call that lazy, call that whatever you want. It's just not me. So I thought this was interesting insight of how things are in creative right now in WWE. I could understand Carlito's frustration in all this, and I also could see how he is, and could see how this is backstage. Speaking up could only get you so much in reality. If the machine's not backing you up, if you're not a main eventer, I don't think your voice is going to be heard. No matter how much you try to push and shove your way to the top there, sometimes when it's not backing you up, it's not backing you up, unfortunately. With that being said, I could see his frustrations dealing with a lot of wrestlers backstage right now. As we heard before, a lot of people say that a lot of this new generation don't push their way to the top, don't push their ideas to creative. They just kind of sit there and just be a team player. And sometimes it only gets you so far. But we did get insight that Carlito did push his way. And I think he's seen that with other people along his time in WWE. And I think he's kind of like dropping hints that it just wasn't him. It was just like, this how sometimes creative is. They don't have nothing for you. They're not going to push you. They're not going to even bother giving your thought or idea the time of the day at this point. Like I said, if the machine's not backing you up, there's no way you're really going to move in wrestling. And it's unfortunate. It really is. Yeah, like I said, that was probably going to be the last time we've seen Carlito in the WWE ring. And after those quotes, I'm sure eventually he'll come back to WWE, and I don't think he's ever going to have another run at the promotion ever again. That being said, we'll move on to the next one. And that is this, guys. This has recently just happened. So there's an update on the merger lawsuit between Vince McMahon and the shareholders that involve the WWE and the UFC. And with that being said, it was determined that former WWE chairman Vince McMahon and his insurance had agreed to pay $42.5 million to resolve the merger lawsuit that involved WWE, UFC, and the shareholders. WWE would also be paying $105 million by itself. The shareholders disclosed that the full $147.5 million figure in court filing on Friday. They claimed that WWE and the UFC parent TKO Group Holding made partial disclosures in a security filing that would not disclose the full settlement to the press. The shareholders shared a letter with the court, and it was stated that WWE is dragging things out and creating more problems. That was in reference to a filing on August 6th that cited a dispute between McMahon and his co-defendants over details of their legal contract, where one party was promised to pay for the financial losses, damages, and legal costs of another party. The lawsuit alleges that the merger's architect geared the deal in favor of McMahon and others such as TKO president Ari Emanuel. Although Emanuel is not named as a defendant, both he and Vince are expected to testify on trial in June, but there was a last-minute settlement that prevented that. So overall, that means they just settled pretty much out of court and settled to pay millions and millions of dollars to the shareholders, where at this point, man, it just seems no matter what, Vince McMahon is not on the winning side lately when it comes to all of his court. I mean, yes, he did get the Janelle Grant lawsuit figured out and settled, but he also had to pay, I'm sure, a good amount of change to keep her quiet and keep her from pursuing this furthermore in court, where all the dirty laundry that he obviously did to her would be thrown out there, and it would not benefit either one party. So they decided to agree on a settlement outside of court. And it looks like it was the same situation here, where in this case he lost a lot of $1 million. And that's not a good sight for Vince McMahon. Again, he's a billionaire, but that's a lot of chunk of change for him to lose. I mean, the L's just keep coming for Vince McMahon. So let's just see what follows up from all this. And last but not least, we'll talk about an episode of Dark Side of the Ring. And I have yet to see the Renegade episode, which I'm very interested to see. I know it's going to be another sad one because the Renegade was supposed to be a knockoff of the Ultimate Warrior in WCW. And the guy who played him did the best he can. And basically doing a comedy gimmick, he did a pretty good job overall. He did have the look. He had a great look. He had a great energy about him. But unfortunately, once the real Ultimate Warrior came back to WCW, he was put away. and basically used in the background, jobbed out basically over the years, and then lost his life later on, not too long afterwards, due to depression and stuff. It's unfortunate. We'll probably review that episode itself, but this one, it's going to be Dark Side of the Ring, Big Boss Man. Well, we explore the life of Ray Traylor and his WWF persona, the Big Boss Man, throughout the years. So in this episode, we do have a lot of highlighted his careers from his coming up. One thing is this: I did not know he was an actual officer, correctional officer, so to say. He was. I could not believe that he actually did come from that scene. So he did know how to play his gimmick because he lived his gimmick for quite a while. As well as basically he had an option because he did take up wrestling for a bit, even though he didn't have too much knowledge of it. Eventually, he found Jim Cornette. They found each other, and Jim Cornette at the time was getting attacked by fans, by actual fans, because he played his gimmick so well as the heel manager that people started attacking him, so he needed someone to protect them. And that being said, basically Big Boss Man and him found each other, and it was security for Jim Cornette back in the day. And Jim Cornette's promotion, where he did such a good job that he intimidated fans that they wanted to attack Jim Cornette, but when he took a look of Big Boss Man, they thought twice, because Big Boss Man did know how to basically fix a crowd if it got out of line, because obviously he was the correctional officer, and he was good at his gimmick overall, real life as well. And his rise of popularity afterwards when he went to the WWF, I think a lot of people forget that he had his famous rivalry with Hulk Hogan in the 80s, where he was a heel, where they did have that cage match that eventually led from Hulk Hogan suplexing Big Boss Man from the cage on the top rope. At the time, that was revolutionary and wasn't really seen much on TV. So for a big guy like him to take that bump for Hulk Hogan was already getting to that superstar power level. And afterwards, he did have a face run where he even just got just as popular as an upper mid-carder in the 80s. I remember seeing his action figures back in the days, LJN figures, as well as him being in a couple of WWF games back in the day when they first coming out. The one arcade one, I think it was WrestleFest. He was part of that. I do remember when you make it in the video game back then, you only have so many spots. So if you take over one spot, you know damn well you made it in the industry during that time. So eventually he left WWF to pursue a career in WCW, where they had nothing for him gimmick-wise. They did not know what to do with this guy, as well as what to name him, because he was coming every week with the new gimmick, a new name, eventually Boss, and all this type of gimmicks. It's just weird names to it. They didn't really have a good run in WCW. Was a member, though, of the NWO, which is pretty cool at the time. Just for you to say that you were a member of the NWO before you went back to WWF. Eventually, Vince Russo wanted him back to the Federation at the time. And so eventually they gave him an offer, and he did return. And instead of returning in his old gear in the 80s, he came back with all black, more tough guy persona, more heelish side persona. And it worked really well during that time with the Attitude Era, because everything was changing. And I do remember this time when I started watching wrestling as a kid and watching him play his persona so good that it made me hate him. Every time he came out, I'm like, oh my God, this guy. When you heard the boos, you felt like legit, like, God, I hate this guy. He's coming out now. That was a good heel, in my opinion, looking back at it. Looking back at what he did during that time, it was great for him to play that gimmick, for him to get that heat, that actual heat, and to play a heel, because nowadays we don't really get that. We either get the cool heel or we'll just get the quiet heel that we don't really get much of a reaction to. So back then, you know, he didn't know how to pay up to the gimmick. Then eventually landed some controversial gimmicks as the Big Boss Man. One was the Big Show feud, where the Big Show had just lost his father, and they were feuding at the time. So they play real life incidents of him losing his father into this feud, where eventually we seen Big Show on screen at his father funeral giving a speech about his father, and all of a sudden we see chains attached to the casket. Big Boss Man drives off with the casket and chain and dragging the basically the body of the Big Show's father out from the funeral. Eventually, in a Big Show furious and tears. Really, I honestly thought this segment wasn't that bad. I look back at it and I legit hated Big Boss Man during that time. Looking back at it now, I thought it was pretty good. I didn't think it was that bad. I could see why it would kind of be controversial, especially this day, but I don't think it was that bad at all. One of the more controversial ones was Al Snow, Big Boss Man feud, where eventually Big Boss Man did held Al Snow's dog hostage for quite a while. And then eventually he agreed to give him back if he decided to have dinner with the Big Boss Man. And during this dinner arrangement, we see Al Snow eating and saying, "This is really good." And Big Boss Man is like, "I'm glad you like it. I'm surprised you haven't really, know that you just tasted your, dog's name during the time." And eventually Al Snow got 2 and 2 together, and boy, was that a controversial storyline right there. That one, yeah, I could see why it got so much heat to this day. But regardless, that being said, a lot of sad things came out of that eventually when Big Boss Man's career was dwindling down. He was hurt. He was in a lot of pain. A lot of things during that time. He was put in a lot of matches. That's you see in the interview where a lot of his kids and his wife talk about him, how they see the man that came back home in pain, in a lot of drugs, just to keep himself basically moving during the time. And then eventually the unfortunate passing where his wife found him just basically passed out, where called 911 and had a basically the operator says, "You have to set him down. You have to set him down. I know he's a big man, but you have to set him down." And eventually we did get someone's husband passed away, as well as father passed away too soon. And really gives you a perspective in life to see that it's not easy to be a basically wrestler sometimes, and to see the growing pains out of this, where back in the day it was more of a tougher schedule wrestling so many days out of the week, because if you stop wrestling back then, you lose your spot on the card. Nowadays it's not that bad schedule wise, so we did come a long way. But to see the guys who paved the way and the guys who we really didn't think too much to give respect or dues to this day, that paved the way to have these guys a safer schedule, safer work schedule, and all, from injuries, CTEs, and all these other things that came about, these old legends in the end. It's kind of nice to see it, give a great perspective to. So with that being said, rest in peace, Big Boss Man. One of the great heels in the Attitude Era, I'll give him that. With that being said, guys, thank you for joining me.